The Grand Assembly Hall stretched out like a small city. Its crystal dome rose 300 meters above the polished floor, and light from a nearby star filtered through in rainbow colors. Representatives from 247 different species filled the massive space. Some sat in chairs, some floated in special chambers, and others rested on platforms designed for their unique bodies. Ambassador Ji-won Kim stood near the human delegation area, wearing her formal diplomatic robe. The dark blue fabric had silver stars embroidered across it, representing Earth and its colonies. She was 42 years old with dark hair pulled back in a simple style. Her face showed calm confidence, the kind that came from years of successful negotiations. Today was special. The Galactic Council was celebrating 200 years of peace, and humanity had been part of that peace for the last 50 years. Ji-won felt proud. Her species had come so far from their violent past. "You look worried," said a voice behind her. She turned to see Captain Minho Park approaching. He was a military man, tall and broad-shouldered, with short black hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He wore his Earth defense uniform, though he had removed most of the weapons to comply with council rules. "I'm not worried," Ji-won said with a smile. "Today is a celebration." Minho didn't smile back. "We need to talk." "It's important." "After the ceremony," Ji-won replied. "Whatever it is can wait a few hours." Before Minho could argue, music filled the hall. The ceremony was beginning. Chancellor Vexthar floated to the central podium. The Chancellor was a mind-weaver, a species that looked like flowing silver light contained in a transparent form. They could read surface thoughts and emotions, which made them excellent mediators. "People of the galaxy," Vexthar's voice echoed in everyone's mind, translated instantly into their native languages. "Today we celebrate 2 centuries without major war. 200 years of cooperation, understanding, and growth. This achievement belongs to all of us." Applause and various forms of approval sounds filled the hall. Some species clicked their mandibles, others hummed in harmony, and humans clapped their hands. "But I must give special recognition," Vexthar continued, "to our newest members. Humanity joined us only 50 years ago, yet they have become some of our finest peacemakers. Ambassador Ji-won Kim has personally prevented 3 wars through negotiation alone. Her wisdom and patience have taught us all." More applause. Ji-won felt her cheeks warm. She had worked so hard for this. Humanity had almost destroyed itself with nuclear weapons 300 years ago. When they finally reached the stars and met the Galactic Council, they had promised to be different, to be better. The ceremony continued for 2 hours. Species after species spoke about peace, cooperation, and hope for the future. Ji-won listened carefully to each one, noting concerns and potential problems she might need to address later. That was her job, after all. She was not just an ambassador. She was a bridge builder. Finally, the formal ceremony ended. The crowd broke up into smaller groups, discussing politics, trade deals, and social matters. Ji-won was immediately surrounded by ambassadors wanting to talk. "Ambassador Kim, your speech last month about the water rights dispute was brilliant," said one alien with 4 arms and purple skin. "Thank you, Ambassador Threll. I only helped both sides see what they already knew in their hearts." She spent the next hour making pleasant conversation, but she noticed Minho waiting at the edge of the crowd. His expression had not changed. Something was definitely wrong. When she finally freed herself from the crowd, she walked quickly to where Minho stood with Dr. Hana Lee, her chief science advisor. Hana was younger than Ji-won, only 34, but brilliant. Her expertise in alien biology had helped Ji-won understand the needs of dozens of different species. "All right," Ji-won said quietly. "What's so urgent?" Minho looked around to make sure no one was listening. "Not here. Follow me." They walked to a private meeting room reserved for the human delegation. Minho locked the door and activated a device that would prevent electronic eavesdropping. Ji-won's stomach tightened. This level of security meant serious trouble. 17 of our colonies have gone silent, Minho said without preamble. Ji-won blinked. "Silent? What do you mean?" "No communications. No responses to hails, nothing. For the last 6 months, these colonies have simply stopped answering." 6 months? Ji-won's voice rose. "Why am I only hearing about this now?" "Earth Command didn't want to alarm you during the peace negotiations with the Vorlax," Hana explained. "But now those negotiations are complete and the situation has become critical." Minho activated a holographic display. It showed a map of human space. 17 stars were marked in red, scattered across the outer edges of human territory. These are all frontier colonies, Ji-won observed. Small populations, mostly families. They're far from major trade routes. Exactly, Minho said. Remote targets. Easy to attack without immediate notice. Attack? Ji-won shook her head. You think someone attacked our colonies? We sent scout ships to investigate, Hana said softly. 3 days ago, they reached the first colony. Ji-won, everyone is dead. Every single person. Men, women, children. All of them. Ji-won felt the floor tilt beneath her. She grabbed the edge of the table for support. How many people? That first colony had 12,000 residents, Minho said. If all 17 colonies are the same, we're looking at over 400,000 dead. 400,000. The number was too big to process. Ji-won had been celebrating peace while 400,000 humans were being murdered. Who did this? She asked, though her voice sounded strange to her own ears. Minho and Hana exchanged a glance. All evidence points to the Krenathi Empire, Minho said. The Krenathi. Ji-won knew them well. They were a warrior species, aggressive and territorial, but they were also council members bound by the same laws against attacking civilians. Are you certain? Ji-won asked. Weapon signatures match their technology, Hana said. The attack patterns match their military doctrine, and we've intercepted some communications that suggest Krenathi involvement. Suggestions aren't proof, Ji-won said, her diplomatic training taking over. Under council law, we need absolute proof before making accusations. I know the law, Minho said, frustration clear in his voice. But while we're gathering proof, more colonies might be dying. We need to act now. Act how? Ji-won demanded. Start a war based on suspicions? That's exactly what the council exists to prevent. The council exists to protect its members. Minho shot back. Where was that protection when our people were being slaughtered? We don't know that the council failed to protect us yet. We haven't even reported the attacks. Because we have no proof that meets council standards. You know how the system works. The Krenathi have allies. They'll block any investigation. They'll demand impossible standards of evidence. By the time we satisfy the bureaucracy, they could attack Earth itself. Ji-won wanted to argue, but the words died in her throat. Deep down, she knew Minho was right about the council's bureaucracy. She had seen it before, though never in a situation this serious. How long do we have? She asked quietly. Intelligence suggests the Krenathi are preparing a major offensive. Best guess is 3 months before they attack Earth. 3 months. 90 days to find a peaceful solution to prevent the extinction of humanity. I need to see the evidence, Ji-won said. Everything you have. If we're going to present this to the council, we need to be prepared. Ji-won, Hana said gently. There's something else. Something worse. What could be worse than 400,000 dead? Hana pulled up another file. The scout teams found black box recordings from the colonies. We have footage of the attacks. Ji-won's hands trembled as she reached for the data pad. Show me, are you sure? Hana asked. It's not easy to watch. Show me, Ji-won repeated firmly. Hana pressed a button. The holographic display changed to show footage from a small colony. At first, everything looked normal. Children playing in a park. Adults working in gardens. A peaceful frontier settlement. Then the sky filled with ships, Krenathi warships, and the killing began. Ji-won watched in horror as soldiers moved through the colony, systematically executing every person they found. The civilians ran, hid, begged for mercy. It made no difference. The Krenathi showed no emotion, no hesitation. They were efficient and thorough. The footage switched to a recording from inside a ventilation shaft. A young girl, maybe 8 years old, was hiding there. Her name appeared at the bottom of the screen. Young Jin. The girl was crying quietly, trying not to make noise. She held a small recording device, whispering into it. My name is Young Jin. I'm 8 years old. The bad aliens are killing everyone. Mom told me to hide here and be quiet. I've been quiet for a long time. I can hear them outside. They're hurting people. I'm scared. Ji-won wanted to stop the recording, but she couldn't look away. Please, Young Jin continued. If anyone finds this, tell Ambassador Kim we tried to run. We tried to hide. We tried everything she said about staying calm and being peaceful. But they killed us anyway. They killed Mom and Dad. They killed everyone. Why did they kill us? We didn't do anything wrong. The recording showed shadows moving outside the vent. Young Jin pulled back deeper into the shaft, but it was too late. The Krenathi had scanning equipment. They found her. The recording ended. The emergency meeting of the human delegation began at midnight station time. Jiwon had called in every human representative, military officer, and advisor, currently at the Galactic Council station. 23 people crowded into the secure conference room, their faces reflecting confusion and concern. Admiral Sora Choi appeared on the main view screen, broadcasting from Earth. She was a stern woman in her 60s, with silver hair and the bearing of someone who had spent 40 years in the military. She had fought in the last major conflict between human colonies 30 years ago, back when humanity was still learning to govern its expanding territory. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," Jiwon began. She stood at the head of the table and everyone could see the change in her. The gentle diplomat was gone. In her place stood someone harder, colder. "Admiral Choi, please brief the delegation on the situation." Sora's image leaned forward. 3 hours ago, Earth Command confirmed our worst fears. All 17 silent colonies have been attacked and destroyed. Total casualties stand at 423,716. This includes 89,412 children under the age of 16. The room erupted in gasps and angry voices. Several people shouted questions at once. Jiwon raised her hand for silence. "Let the Admiral finish," she said quietly. The room fell silent. Something in her tone warned them not to argue. "Weapon analysis confirms Krenathi military equipment was used," Sora continued. "We have intercepted encrypted Krenathi communications discussing the human problem and testing their resolve. We have testimony from 3 Krenathi defectors who witnessed planning meetings for these attacks, and we have recovered black box data from the colonies showing Krenathi soldiers conducting the massacres." "That should be more than enough for a council investigation," said Ambassador Hyun Kang, who specialized in council law. He was a former military officer himself, a quiet man with a sharp legal mind. "Under normal circumstances, yes," Sora replied. "But the Krenathi Empire has 6 allied species on the council. They've been blocking every inquiry we've attempted. The council bureaucracy requires absolute proof, which they've defined as either live witnesses who can testify directly or Krenathi government documents admitting to the attacks. Both standards are deliberately impossible to meet." "They're protecting their allies," said Dr. Hana Lee. She sat near Jiwon, having pulled up detailed files on her datapad. "The Council's veto system means that any investigation can be blocked if 7 species object. The Krenathi and their 6 allies make 7. Jiwon walked to the view screen and activated a star map. "Admiral, what's the current assessment of Krenathi military movements?" "They're preparing for a major offensive. Our intelligence indicates they plan to attack Earth itself within 12 weeks. The frontier massacres were a test to see if humanity would respond with force or continue to rely on diplomatic channels. They're testing if we're really committed to peace or if we're just weak," Captain Minho Park said bitterly. "And so far we've shown them we're willing to let them murder our children without consequences." "Why?" asked a younger diplomat named Bora Yang. "Why target us at all? We've never threatened the Krenathi." Hana pulled up analysis reports. "According to our intelligence, the Krenathi Empire has been expanding for 3,000 years. They've conquered 47 other species, but for the last 50 years, council laws have restricted their expansion. They're running out of resources and need new territory. Human space is rich in rare minerals and habitable planets," Minho added. "And we're relatively weak militarily. On paper, we're the perfect target." "On paper," repeated Admiral Sora, and something in her tone made everyone look at her. "Which brings me to the classified portion of this briefing. Ambassador Kim has been granted special clearance from Earth's government to share information about projects that have been kept secret even from most of the delegation." Jiwon nodded. "What you're about to learn cannot leave this room. Admiral, please proceed." Sora's expression became grim. 20 years ago, when humanity first joined the Galactic Council, our military leadership asked a simple question. What if the Council's laws fail to protect us? What if we encounter a species that doesn't care about treaties and rules? "The Council promised to protect all member species," Bora protested. "The Council promised," Sora agreed. "But our leaders remembered Earth's history. We remembered how many times treaties failed, how many times peaceful nations were destroyed by aggressive neighbors. So while our diplomats worked to build peace, our military prepared for war. A new image appeared on the screen. It showed a massive military facility hidden inside an asteroid. Project Righteous Fury, Sora announced. For 20 years we've been building a secret defense fleet. We've been studying every species in the Council, learning their weaknesses, their military tactics, their biology. We've been developing weapons and strategies specifically designed to counter potential threats. The room fell silent. Several diplomats looked shocked, even betrayed. You've been preparing for war while we were negotiating peace? Bora asked. We were preparing to defend ourselves, Jiwan corrected. There's a difference. And right now I'm grateful we did. Sora continued. The fleet currently consists of 2,000 warships. Each ship is smaller than traditional Council vessels, but faster and more maneuverable. We've also developed weapons that exploit specific vulnerabilities in various species. What kind of weapons? Minho asked, leaning forward with interest. For the Krenathi specifically, we've created thermobaric warheads that ignite atmospheric oxygen. The Krenathi have thick armor, but their respiratory systems are vulnerable to pressure changes. We've also developed biological agents that suppress their regenerative abilities. Biological weapons? Bora said, horrified. That violates Council Treaty 17. We're not Council members anymore, Jiwan said quietly. Everyone turned to stare at her. What do you mean? Hyun asked carefully. I mean that I'm going to request an emergency council session. I'm going to present our evidence against the Krenathi, and when the council fails to act because of political alliances and bureaucratic procedure, I'm going to withdraw humanity from the Galactic Council. That's insane, Bora said. Species only withdraw as a prelude to war. Exactly, Jiwan replied. The room erupted again. Half the people were shouting support, the other half arguing against the plan. Jiwan let them argue for a few minutes, then raised her hand again. I understand your concerns, she said. Believe me, this isn't what I wanted. I've spent 15 years building relationships, negotiating treaties, working for peace. But I've also learned something important. The Council's laws only protect species with powerful friends. The Krenathi can murder 400,000 humans, including 89,000 children, and face no consequences because they have political allies. She pressed a button, and the conference room's walls became screens. They showed footage from the colony attacks. Young Jin's recording played, her small voice asking why the bad aliens killed everyone. Jiwan let the footage play in full. When it ended, more than half the people in the room were crying. That's why, Jiwan said simply, because young Jin tried to follow the rules. Because 400,000 people trusted that the Council would protect them. And because if we don't act now, the Krenathi will kill everyone on Earth in 12 weeks. If we declare war, millions could die, Hyun said, though his voice lacked conviction. If we don't declare war, billions will die. The Krenathi won't stop with Earth. Once they've proven they can destroy us without consequences, every weak species in the Council becomes a target. Admiral Sora spoke up. Earth's government has already made its decision. I'm authorized to tell you that President Isul Nam has signed emergency military orders. The expeditionary fleet is being mobilized as we speak. Ambassador Kim has been given full authority to handle the diplomatic aspects as she sees fit. What about the other Council species? Asked another diplomat. Won't they intervene to stop a war? Some might try, Jiwan admitted. But most species won't risk their own safety to defend the Krenathi. And once we prove that we can actually fight back effectively, the political calculations change. Right now, everyone thinks humanity is weak because we've been peaceful. We're about to teach the galaxy an important lesson. What lesson? Bora asked. Minho answered before Jiwan could. That there's a difference between choosing peace and being incapable of war. We chose peace. We were never weak. The galaxy is about to learn that distinction the hard way. Jiwan pulled up tactical displays showing human military assets. Our strategy is simple. We're going to destroy the Krenathi military's ability to wage war. Every warship, every military base, every weapons facility. We're going to hit them so hard and so fast that they'll have no choice but to surrender. What about Krenathi civilians? Hana asked quietly. We won't target civilians, Jiwan said firmly. That's what separates us from them. We'll hold ourselves to a higher standard, but make no mistake, we're going to dismantle their military completely. Admiral Sora added, Our intelligence suggests the Krenathi have about 3,000 warships. They think their numerical advantage makes them invincible. They're wrong. Our ships are faster. The emergency council session was scheduled for noon, station time. By 11 in the morning, every seat in the Grand Assembly Hall was filled. Word had spread that Ambassador Ji-won Kim had called for an urgent meeting, and everyone wanted to know why. Ji-won stood in the human delegation area, reviewing her notes one final time. She wore the same formal robe from the peace celebration 2 days ago, but somehow it felt different now. The silver stars seemed less like symbols of hope and more like targets on her back. "They're ready for you," Captain Minho Park said quietly. He stood beside her, along with Dr. Hana Lee and the rest of the human delegation. All of them wore serious expressions. Ji-won looked out at the assembled representatives. 247 species, thousands of individuals all waiting to hear what she had to say. Many looked curious. Some looked annoyed at having their schedules disrupted. The Krenathi delegation looked amused, as if this was all a joke. Chancellor Vexthar floated to the central podium. The Mindweaver's silver form shimmered with concern. Even without telepathy, Ji-won could sense that Vexthar knew something serious was happening. "The Council recognizes Ambassador Ji-won Kim of Humanity," Vexthar announced, their mental voice reaching everyone in the hall. "She has invoked Emergency Protocol 7, which requires unanimous consent. This is only the third time in Council history that this protocol has been used." Some representatives shifted uncomfortably. Emergency Protocol 7 was reserved for existential threats to member species. Ji-won walked to the central podium. The walk seemed to take forever, though it was only 30 meters. Every eye in the hall followed her. She reached the podium and placed her hands on its smooth surface. For a moment she said nothing, just looked out at the assembled species. 200 years ago, she finally began, her voice calm and clear. "The Galactic Council was founded on a simple principle, that civilization means more than military strength. It means justice, cooperation, and the protection of the innocent. These ideals inspired my species when we first reached the stars." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Humanity almost destroyed itself 300 years ago with nuclear weapons. We came within hours of extinction. When we finally recovered and reached space, we promised ourselves we would be different. When we met the Galactic Council, we believed we had found something precious, a community of species that shared our values." Ji-won activated the holographic display. A map of human space appeared, showing Earth and its colonies. "For 50 years, humanity has been a loyal council member. We have followed every law, respected every treaty, and worked tirelessly for peace. I myself have spent 15 years as your ambassador. I have mediated disputes, prevented conflicts, and built bridges between species. I believed in the Council's mission with every fiber of my being." Her voice grew harder. "But I was wrong. The Council failed. The laws failed. Justice failed." Murmurs spread through the hall. Chancellor Vexthar held up a silvery appendage for silence. Ji-won changed the display to show 17 red markers on the map. 6 months ago, 17 human colonies stopped communicating. These were frontier settlements, small communities far from major trade routes. Each colony had between 8,000 and 35,000 residents. Families, farmers, teachers, children, peaceful people building new lives. She pressed another button. The display changed to show grainy footage from a colony under attack. 3 days ago, we confirmed what happened to these colonies. They were attacked. Every single resident was systematically executed. Men, women, and children. No one was spared. The footage showed Krenathi soldiers moving through a colony street, their weapons firing methodically. Civilians fell as they tried to run. The hall fell silent, watching in horror. Ji-won let the footage play for 2 minutes, then switched to another colony. Same scene. Soldiers hunting down civilians, executing them without mercy. She showed footage from 5 different colonies, each one showing the same brutal efficiency. 423,716 human beings were murdered, Ji-won said, her voice steady despite the rage burning inside her. 89,412 of them were children under the age of 16. She changed the display again. This time it showed weapon analysis reports, communication intercepts, and testimony documents. All evidence points to the Krenathi Empire as responsible for these attacks. Weapon signatures match their military equipment. Attack patterns match their documented tactics. We have intercepted communications between Krenathi military units discussing these operations. We have testimony from Krenathi defectors who witnessed planning meetings. Commander Thyrol, leader of the Krenathi delegation, stood up. He was a massive being, nearly 3 meters tall, covered in thick armor plates. His forearms crossed over his chest in a gesture of contempt. These are serious accusations, Ambassador Kim, Thyrol rumbled. Accusations require proof that meets council standards. Do you have such proof? You know I don't, Jiwon replied coldly. Council standards require either live witnesses who can testify before the council or official government documents admitting responsibility. Both standards are designed to be impossible to meet, especially when the accused has political allies willing to obstruct investigations. She turned to address the full council. For the past 3 days, humanity has attempted to initiate a formal investigation under council law. Every attempt has been blocked by the Krenathi and their allied species. They claim our evidence is insufficient, that we need more proof, that we must follow proper procedure. Jiwon's voice rose, filled with fury she no longer tried to hide. Meanwhile, 400,000 of my people lie dead. Meanwhile, the Krenathi military is preparing to attack Earth itself. Meanwhile, your precious procedures protect the killers and abandon the victims. Chancellor Vexthar spoke up. Ambassador Kim, I understand your anger, but the Council's laws exist for good reason. Without proper standards of evidence, any species could make false accusations against their enemies. False accusations? Jiwon repeated. She pressed another button on the display. Young Jin's recording began to play. The 8-year-old girl's voice filled the enormous hall, small and scared and desperate. My name is Young Jin. I'm 8 years old. The bad aliens are killing everyone. Jiwon watched the council representatives as they listened to the child's final words. Many looked away. Some covered their ears or turned off their translation devices. But Jiwon made sure the recording played in full, including the moment when the Krenathi soldiers found Young Jin's hiding place. When the recording ended, the hall was silent. That was one child, Jiwon said quietly. We have recordings from 873 other children. Would the council like to hear them all? Or would that be too uncomfortable while you debate whether we have sufficient proof? No one answered. Jiwon turned to look directly at Commander Thyrol and the Krenathi delegation. You murdered our children because you thought we were weak. You thought humanity's commitment to peace meant we were incapable of defending ourselves. You thought we would continue to trust the council's laws even while you slaughtered our people. Thyrol laughed, a harsh booming sound. Prove it before the council's court, Ambassador. Oh wait, you cannot. Without proper evidence, your accusations are meaningless. The council will not act on emotion and propaganda. You're right, Jiwon said. The council will not act. The council's laws protect the powerful and abandon the weak. The council's procedures enable genocide through deliberate inaction. She turned back to face Chancellor Vexthar and the assembled representatives. For 15 years, I have been the voice of human diplomacy. I have preached patience, understanding, and peace. I have worked within your systems, followed your laws, and believed in your principles. But I have learned a terrible truth. Jiwon's voice grew stronger, echoing through the vast hall. There are species who see peace not as a virtue, but as weakness to exploit. There are systems that enable evil through bureaucracy and procedure, and there are moments when following the law means abandoning justice. She took a deep breath. Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council. The hall erupted. Representatives jumped to their feet, shouting questions and protests. Some demanded she reconsider. Others accused her of making threats. The noise was deafening. Chancellor Vexthar's mental voice cut through the chaos. Ambassador Kim, do you understand what you're saying? Withdrawal from the council is an act of war. No, Jiwon corrected. Withdrawal is simply withdrawal. What happens next depends on the Krenathi Empire's choices. Commander Thyrol pushed his way to the front of the Krenathi delegation area, laughing loudly. Is that a threat, little human? You think your primitive species can challenge the Krenathi Empire? We have conquered 47 species over 3,000 years.
We have 3,000 warships.
What do you have? A few hundred exploration vessels? Jiwon met his gaze without flinching. We have something you don't understand, Commander. We have the ability to learn from our mistakes. For 50 years, we have been peaceful members of the Council. But before we reached the stars, humanity spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war. We nearly destroyed ourselves because we were too good at killing each other. The Krenathi Empire responded to humanity's declaration with mockery and threats. Commander Thyrol broadcast a message across the entire galaxy, less than an hour after the council session ended. The humans have shown their true nature, Thyrol announced, his massive form filling view screens on thousands of worlds. They speak of peace while preparing for war. They make wild accusations without proof, And now they threaten the Krenathi Empire, a civilization that has stood for 3,000 years. He laughed, the sound booming and confident. Let them come. The Krenathi military has conquered 47 species. We have 3,000 warships, each one larger and more powerful than anything in the human fleet. We have warriors bred for combat across multiple generations. We have weapons that have crushed entire civilizations. Thyrel's forearms spread wide in a gesture of contempt. Humanity has 200 exploration vessels and delusions of strength. This will not be a war. It will be an execution. And when we finish with Earth, the galaxy will remember why the Krenathi Empire is feared. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, species placed bets on how long humanity would last. Most predicted less than 6 months. Some generous estimates gave humans a full year before total defeat. The Galactic Council held emergency sessions to discuss the crisis. Chancellor Vexthar tried to arrange peace negotiations, but both sides refused. The Krenathi wanted blood and conquest. Humanity wanted justice and survival. In the Krenathi home system, military leaders celebrated what they saw as an easy victory. Their fleet was already positioned to strike at human colonies. Additional forces were being mobilized for the final assault on Earth. But while the Krenathi celebrated, something else was happening in the depths of space. 3 days after G1's speech, the human expeditionary fleet emerged from its hidden asteroid bases. 2,000 warships powered up their engines and began moving toward Krenathi space. These ships were different from the exploration vessels the Council had seen. They were built for one purpose: war. Each ship was smaller than traditional Council warships, only about 2/3 the size. But they were faster, more maneuverable, and equipped with weapon systems that had been developed in secret for 20 years. General Taiyang Huang commanded the fleet from the carrier vessel, Indomitable. He was a veteran of humanity's colonial conflicts, a man who had spent his entire adult life preparing for this moment. He stood on the bridge watching his fleet assemble. "All ships report ready," his tactical officer announced. "Good," Taiyang said. "Set course for Dracor Prime. That's where the Krenathi Northern Fleet is stationed." His second-in-command, a woman named Commander Juri Han, looked concerned. "Sir, intelligence reports 300 Krenathi warships at Dracor Prime. We're sending 150 ships against them." "I know the numbers," Taiyang replied calmly. "Trust the plan, Commander. The Krenathi think they understand warfare because they've been winning for 3,000 years. They're about to learn that success breeds complacency." The fleet jumped to faster-than-light travel. 8 hours later, they arrived at the edge of the Dracor Prime system. The Krenathi Northern Fleet was indeed waiting for them. 300 massive warships, each one bristling with weapons. The Krenathi ships formed a traditional battle line, exactly as their tactical manuals prescribed. They had done this same formation in 1,000 victories over 3 millennia. Commander Thyrel, who had taken personal command of the Northern Fleet, broadcast a message to the approaching human ships. "Foolish humans, you bring 150 ships against 300. You are either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Either way, you will die here." On the bridge of the Indomitable, General Taiyang smiled. "All ships," he broadcast to his fleet, "execute attack pattern swarm. Show them what human warfare looks like." What happened next shocked every military expert who later studied the battle recordings. The human ships didn't form a battle line. They didn't try to match the Krenathi formation. Instead, they accelerated to maximum speed and scattered in seemingly random directions. The Krenathi fired their main weapons, massive plasma cannons that could punch through traditional ship armor. But the human ships were too fast and too small. Most shots missed. The few that connected hit ships that had already launched their crews in escape pods. Then, the human ships reached the Krenathi formation, and the real attack began. Instead of trading broadsides like traditional space battles, the human ships swarmed around the Krenathi vessels like insects attacking a larger predator. They moved in 3 dimensions, attacking from above, below, and all sides simultaneously. Their smaller size let them dodge between the massive Krenathi ships, too close for the big weapons to target effectively, and their weapons were specifically designed to hurt the Krenathi. Dr. Yuna Shin had spent 5 years studying Krenathi biology and technology. She discovered that while Krenathi armor was incredibly strong, their ship's life support systems were vulnerable to rapid pressure changes. The human ships fired thermobaric missiles that penetrated enemy hulls and then ignited the atmospheric oxygen inside. The explosions created massive pressure waves that ruptured internal systems. Krenathi ships that seemed undamaged from the outside suddenly went dark, their crews dead or unconscious. The human ships also deployed biological weapons in aerosol form. These agents were designed to suppress the Krenathi's natural regeneration ability. Krenathi warriors who survived the initial attacks found themselves bleeding from wounds that wouldn't heal, suffering effects they had never experienced before. The battle lasted 4 hours. At the end, every single Krenathi ship was destroyed or disabled. The human fleet lost 12 ships with another 18 damaged but still functional. General Taeyang broadcast a message to the surviving Krenathi and their crippled vessels. You are being allowed to live so you can tell your empire what happened here. Humanity did not start this war. You did when you murdered 400,000 of our people, but we will finish it. The message ended. The human fleet collected their wounded and jumped away, leaving the debris of 300 Krenathi warships floating in space. News of the battle spread across the galaxy within hours. Species that had been placing bets on humanity's quick defeat suddenly re-evaluated their estimates. The Krenathi Empire, shocked by the unexpected loss, mobilized additional fleets. But humanity didn't give them time to organize a response. Over the next 3 months, human fleets struck at Krenathi military installations across their empire. They didn't attack civilian targets. They didn't bombard cities or slaughter innocents. But every military base, every weapons factory, every shipyard was systematically destroyed. The Krenathi tried to adapt their tactics, but humanity had studied 3,000 years of Krenathi military history. Every strategy the Krenathi attempted, humans had already prepared a counter. When the Krenathi tried to use their superior numbers, human ships scattered and attacked supply lines instead of engaging directly. When the Krenathi tried to fortify their positions, human ships used long-range missiles and didn't get close enough to be hit by fixed defenses. When the Krenathi tried to predict human movements, they found that humans didn't follow any predictable patterns. Every attack came from unexpected directions at unexpected times. Ambassador Daehyun Ko, humanity's former representative to the Krenathi Empire, broadcast messages explaining humanity's strategy to the entire galaxy. The Krenathi asked if humanity was truly committed to peace or just too weak to fight. They got their answer. We chose peace. We were never weak, and there is a vast difference between a species that cannot fight and a species that chooses not to. He paused, letting his words sink in across thousands of worlds. The Krenathi made a critical error. They studied humanity's 50 years as council members and thought they understood us. But they ignored our history before that. They forgot that humanity spent 10,000 years fighting wars against ourselves. We know every trick, every strategy, every brutal tactic that works in combat. We studied warfare because we were good at it. Too good. That's why we chose peace. Another pause. But when you murder our children and hide behind bureaucracy, when you force us to choose between extinction and fighting back, you're not facing peaceful diplomats anymore. You're facing a species that nearly destroyed itself through war. You wanted to see if we could fight? You're finding out. The message was clear. Humanity wasn't just defending itself. It was prosecuting a war with precision and overwhelming force. 5 months after the war began, the Krenathi had lost 70% of their military fleet. Their weapons factories were destroyed. Their shipyards were rubble, and human forces were approaching their home system. In the Krenathi capital, military leaders gathered in emergency council. The mood was panicked. 3,000 years of unbroken military success had ended in 5 months of devastating defeat. How is this possible? One general demanded. They only had 2,000 ships. We had 3,000. We had superior technology. We had experience conquering 47 species. An intelligence officer pulled up analysis reports. They planned for this. Every ship was designed specifically to counter our capabilities. Every weapon was tailored to exploit our weaknesses. They studied us for 20 years while we dismissed them as harmless diplomats. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council was full once again, but this time, the atmosphere was completely different from the peace celebration 9 months ago. Every species representative watched the human delegation with new eyes. Fear, respect, and caution replaced the previous warmth and trust. Ambassador Jiwon Kim stood at the central podium, just as she had when declaring war. But now she was here to announce peace terms. The Krenathi delegation sat in a smaller section, their numbers reduced. Their new leaders looked defeated and humbled, nothing like the arrogant Commander Thyral who had laughed at humanity's threats. Chancellor Vexthar opened the session. The Mindweaver's silver form seemed dimmer than before, as if the weight of recent events had affected even their energy. We gather today to hear humanity's terms for ending the war with the Krenathi Empire, Vexthar announced. Ambassador Kim, the Council recognizes you. Jiwon looked out at the assembled representatives. Some expected her to demand harsh punishment. Others worried she would demand territory or resources as spoils of war. The galaxy was waiting to see if humanity's victory would turn them into conquerors. 8 months ago, Jiwon began, I stood at this podium and declared that the time for war had come. I did so because the Krenathi Empire murdered 423,000 human beings, including 89,000 children. I did so because the Council's laws failed to protect the innocent. She paused, letting everyone remember that day. Today I stand here again. The Krenathi military has been defeated. Their fleet is destroyed. Their weapons factories are gone. They have sued for peace. And now the galaxy is watching to see what kind of species humanity really is. Jiwon activated a holographic display showing casualty figures from the war. Krenathi military losses were massive, but civilian casualties were minimal. During this war, humanity destroyed over 2,000 Krenathi warships and 300 military installations. But we did not attack civilian targets. We did not bomb cities. We did not slaughter innocents. We held ourselves to a standard that the Krenathi abandoned when they attacked our colonies. She turned to face the Krenathi delegation directly. We could demand your complete destruction. We could occupy your worlds. We could make you pay in blood for the blood you spilled. But we will not. Because if we become like you, then what did our people die for? The Krenathi representatives looked confused. They had expected harsh terms, not mercy. Jiwon continued, these are humanity's terms for peace. First, the Krenathi Empire will be placed under a 50-year probationary period. Neutral species chosen by the Council will monitor your military to ensure compliance with all treaty obligations. Second, the Krenathi military will be reduced by 90%. You may maintain enough forces to defend your borders, but not enough to threaten your neighbors. Third, the Krenathi will pay reparations to rebuild the 17 human colonies that were destroyed. These payments will continue for 25 years. Fourth, and most important, every individual involved in planning or executing the colony massacres will stand trial for genocide before an independent tribunal. This includes military officers, government officials, and anyone else who gave or followed orders to kill civilians. The terms were firm but not devastating. The galaxy had expected much worse. One of the Krenathi representatives stood. His name was Gorath, and he was the new leader of their government after the old leadership had been killed or imprisoned. Ambassador Kim, Gorath said quietly, why are you showing us mercy? We murdered your children. We laughed at your peaceful ways. We tried to exterminate your species. Why not destroy us completely? Jiwon's expression was sad but determined. Because that would make us conquerors instead of defenders. We did not go to war to become like you. We went to war because we were forced to. Because the systems meant to protect us failed. Our goal was never revenge. It was justice and the prevention of future atrocities. She addressed the full council again. But humanity also has terms for the council itself. Because the Krenathi could not have done what they did without the council's failure. This caused a stir. Many representatives shifted uncomfortably. Jiwon pulled up documents detailing her proposals. We propose the following reforms to the Galactic Council. First, creation of an independent war crimes tribunal with real enforcement powers. No more requiring absolute proof that is impossible to obtain. No more political allies blocking investigations. Second, elimination of the veto system that allows 7 species to block any investigation. Justice should not depend on who your friends are. Third, mandatory intervention protocols when civilian populations face extinction-level threats. The Council cannot simply watch while genocide happens and claim its hands are tied by procedure. Fourth, term limits for all Council leadership positions. Power should not become permanent. Many older species immediately objected. Change was difficult for civilizations that had existed for thousands of years. But hundreds of younger species, Those who had lived in fear of stronger neighbors began voicing support. President Isul Nam appeared on the main view screen, broadcasting from Earth. She was a small woman in her 50s, but her voice carried absolute authority. The Galactic Council faces a choice, Nam said clearly. You can reform these systems so that law actually means something, or you can watch as this council becomes irrelevant while species form their own alliances, based on strength rather than justice. She let that warning sink in. Humanity did not seek the role we now find ourselves in. We wanted only to live in peace, to contribute to galactic civilization, to learn and grow alongside you. But when our children were murdered and the systems we trusted failed us, we were forced to act. We have proven that we can fight. We have proven that we can win. But now we want to prove something more important, that we can build a better system, one where justice is real and not just a word in treaties. The vote on humanity's proposals took 3 weeks. Different species debated, formed coalitions, and negotiated compromises. In the end, the reforms passed with 73% support, not because everyone loved humanity, but because they feared being the next species abandoned by a broken system. The Galactic Council entered a new era. The War Crimes Tribunal was established with judges from neutral species. The Krenathi military officers responsible for the colony massacres were arrested and put on trial. The trials lasted 6 months. Evidence was presented methodically. Survivors testified. Recordings were played. The accused were given full legal representation, something they had never given to their victims. In the end, 217 Krenathi officers and officials were convicted of genocide. Their sentences varied based on their level of responsibility. Some faced imprisonment. Others faced execution under galactic law. Ambassador Ji-won Kim attended every day of the trials. She sat in the gallery, listening to testimony about the murders of 400,000 humans. It was painful, but she felt she owed it to the victims to witness justice being done. Dr. Hana Lee sat beside her during most sessions. "How are you holding up?" Hana asked one day. "I'm tired," Ji-won admitted. "Tired of war, tired of death, tired of politics. But I'll stay until it's finished. Those people deserve that much." When the trials finally ended, Ji-won announced her retirement from diplomatic service. She had served humanity for 15 years as a diplomat and 9 months as a war leader. Now she wanted to go home to Earth and try to find peace for herself. Captain Minho Park was chosen as humanity's new ambassador to the Galactic Council. He was a symbol of the changed reality. Humanity would always prefer peace, but would never again be unprepared for war. At his appointment ceremony, Minho gave a short speech. "I am a soldier, not a diplomat," he said honestly. "But perhaps that's what the galaxy needs right now. Someone who understands both the cost of war and the value of peace. Someone who knows that maintaining peace sometimes requires the strength to fight when necessary." He looked around at the assembled representatives, ambassador. Kim built bridges through kindness and wisdom. "I will continue that work, but I will also make sure that every species understands a simple truth. Humanity is strong enough to defend ourselves and our friends. We proved that in 8 months of war. Now we will spend years proving that we can be trusted with that strength." The council session ended with cautious optimism. The galaxy was different now. Power dynamics had shifted. The old certainties about who was strong and who was weak had been shattered. On Earth, a memorial was unveiled in the capital city. It was a simple wall of black stone, carved with 423,716 names. Every victim from the 17 colonies was listed there. Ji-won attended the dedication ceremony along with survivors from the war and families of those who had died. She walked slowly along the wall until she found young Jin's name, carved carefully into the stone alongside her parents and siblings. She placed a white flower beneath the name, as she had done every week since returning to Earth. "I'm sorry I couldn't save you," Ji-won whispered. "But I kept my promise. Because of you, because of all of you, no other species will be allowed to suffer like this while the galaxy watches and does nothing." Dr. Hana Lee stood beside her, also placing flowers. "Do you think the reforms will last?"